How can I quiet my mind so I can listen to the voice of my higher self? It's a great question and one I want to tackle from a slightly different angle than usual. Rather than giving you techniques to help you listen to your higher self, I want to ask a provocative question. What if the voice you rehearing is unreally your higher self? Now, I know that might sound odd, so stay with me. Let's start with a premise that has become common currency in modern spiritual and self-help circles. You have a higher self, a spiritual essence that exists outside of time and space, containing all the answers and wisdom you will ever need. Your daily life is lived from the limited perspective of your egoic self, and your higher self observes this from a place of perfection. If only you could turn off the noise of your ego, then you could tune into the guidance of your higher self. You would know exactly what to do and say in any situation, and your life would unfold in perfect harmony. With this model in place, it makes sense to conclude that quieting your mind is the best way to connect with your higher self. And this advice is everywhere, usually presented as a kind of cheat code to a better life. But what if I told you that the voice you hear in meditation, the one you assume is your higher self, is actually the last thing standing between you and your true nature? What? I know it sounds counterintuitive, so let me explain. Neuroscience tells us that the experience of I or self arises from complex interactions between different regions of the brain, involving motor functions, attention, language processing, and social cognition. Essentially, the sense of self emerges from an intricate web of neural activity rather than residing in a single spot. This distributed network even extends beyond our physical brains, incorporating cultural norms, societal expectations, and individual memories. Our sense of self is essentially a narrative constructed by our brains based on all available information. Okay, so far so good and not particularly revolutionary. But consider this: if we zoom in on the firing neurons and synapses that constitute this construct we call self, we find no throne room, no central command center, no operator or master controller, just networks, feedback loops, an intricate dance of electricity and silence. Where is the you that feels like you? The answer, paradoxically, lies in the spaces between the firings, in the silences of your nervous system. When neuroscientists went hunting for the self, scanning brains, dissecting cognition, tracing every electrical signal and synapse, they came up empty-handed: no throne, no operator, no master controller. Only networks, feedback loops, an intricate dance of electricity and silence. Instead of a self, they found a void, not a dark emptiness, but a mysterious infinite canvas where every thought, emotion, memory, and sensation appears and disappears like waves crashing against the shore of something ancient and still. We think there's someone behind the curtain, a hidden puppeteer pulling strings. But if you look closely, there's no curtain, only the illusion of one, no thinker behind the thought, no watcher behind the eye. So what exactly is going on here? What does it mean that the self is nothing but a collection of brain states? It means that the sense of self, including the supposed higher self, is nothing more than the product of material processes. It's a story told by neurons, not a storyteller. The idea of a higher self observing your actions from some ethereal plane is just another story among many. But wait a second, how can this be? If we are merely the sum of our brain activity, how can we hold the potentially limitless wisdom of the universe within our skulls? Here's where things get interesting. If the self is nothing but a construction, an illusion, it follows that we are not limited by it. Freed from the confines of our own narratives, we can access anything we want. Remember those New Age promises of living a life of ease, perfect relationships, and effortless abundance? They weren't built on thin air. They are rooted in the scientific understanding of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change its structure and function in response to experience. By changing our thoughts, our neural pathways, we can change our lives, and this is where the apparent contradiction deepens. We can only realize our full potential by letting go of the idea of a higher self, because as long as we believe in that concept, we are limiting ourselves. The notion of a separate higher self implies a division between the self and the non-self, subject and object, perceiver and perceived. But what if this separation is an illusion and we are actually always already the thing we seek? This line of thinking has roots in ancient wisdom traditions like Vedanta and Buddhism. In Vedantic philosophy, for example, the ultimate reality is Brahman, a state of pure consciousness from which everything else arises and to which everything else returns. The individual soul or Atman is identical to Brahman, and the goal of spiritual practice is to realize this unity. Similarly, Buddhism teaches that the idea of a permanent self is a construct that causes suffering and that true liberation comes from recognizing the impermanent, interconnected nature of reality. In essence, these traditions point to the same conclusion that neuroscience arrives at in its own right, that there is no separate self, only phenomena occurring within a larger field of interconnectedness. So where does this leave the concept of the higher self? Well, we can still use it as a storytelling device, a metaphorical way of talking about our deepest aspirations and values. But to believe that it's an actual entity separate from us is to perpetuate the illusion of separation that causes our suffering. As spiritual teachers like Ramana Maharshi and Nisargadatta Maharaja have taught, the only thing to be known directly is the fact of awareness itself. Awareness of what? Awareness of thoughts, emotions, sensations, and the world around us. Awareness is always present. It needs no cultivation. It's not something to be reached by silencing the mind. It's something to be recognized by ceasing to identify with the products of the mind. You close your eyes, sit in silence, and a voice appears, the inner commentator, soft yet relentless, telling you you're doing it right or maybe wrong, flattering you with false wisdom or cutting you with judgment. For years you believed that voice was the observer, the witness beyond your daily chaos. But here's the unsettling truth. It isn't. That voice is not the witness. It's the imposter, a mask of the mind calling itself God. The voice in meditation is just another voice, albeit one stripped of distractions. It's the inner monologue, your habitual way of making sense of experience. It's not the silent watcher. Psychologists call it the inner monologue. Spiritual seekers mistake it for awareness. But it's only a constructed persona, your mother's words when you were 5, your culture's definitions, your fears, your history, all dressed up as insight. That voice plays 3 roles: the narrator, labeling your experiences, the critic tearing you down, and the hype man, addicted to progress. But calm doesn't mean true, and distance doesn't mean transcendence. That voice is still thought, still noise, still ego. The real observer doesn't speak. It doesn't guide or motivate. It simply watches your laughter, your tears, your rage, your silence. It watches even the inner commentator pretending to be wise. It doesn't interfere because it already knows. None of it is you. Most seekers mistake subtle thought for awareness, but the observer is not a narrator. It is presence itself, not describing the river but being the river, not interpreting your thoughts but watching them pass like clouds in an endless sky. It is unfiltered, wordless, pure. And when every voice in your head goes silent, what remains is not a voice at all, but awareness itself, beyond identity, beyond ownership, not even yours, just the eternal witness that has always been. Here lies the most paradoxical truth. The observer isn't personal. It's the same presence watching through everyone, the same awareness behind 7 billion eyes. The movies differ, memories, cultures, thoughts, but the screen never changes. There aren't 7 billion observers, just one awareness wearing masks. This means that the person you love, the one you hate, the one you argue with, isn't other. At the core, there is no separation, only one light refracting into many. This is why mystics laughed, why they spoke in riddles, because it was never about you. It was always about the one watching. And sometimes, in rare moments when the mind grows still, a breeze through the trees, sunlight across the floor, a stranger glancing away, you feel it. Raw presence, silent watching, life itself looking back at you. This is the universal witness, not personal, not earned, not reached through effort because it is already awake. You've just been distracted by noise, mistaking commentary for truth, but the observer is timeless. Bodies change, identities rewrite themselves 1,000 times, trauma heals, success fades. Yet the silent presence that witnessed your childhood is the same one watching now. It has never aged, never shifted, never moved. That is eternity, not endless time, but absence of time, pure presence, the unchanging witness beneath all change. It is here lies the most paradoxical truth: the observer isn't personal. It's the same presence watching through everyone, the same awareness behind 7 billion eyes. The movies differ, memories, cultures, thoughts, but the screen never changes. There aren't 7 billion observers, just one awareness wearing masks. This means that the person you love, the one you hate, the one you argue with, isn't other. At the core, there is no separation, only one light refracting into many. This is why mystics laughed, why they spoke in riddles, because it was never about you. It was always about the one watching. And sometimes in rare moments when the mind grows still, a breeze through the trees, sunlight across the floor, a stranger glancing away, you feel it, raw presence, silent watching, life itself looking back at you. This is the universal witness, not personal, not earned, not reached through effort, because it is already awake. You've just been distracted by noise, mistaking commentary for truth. But the observer is timeless. Bodies change, identities rewrite themselves 1,000 times, trauma heals, success fades. Yet the silent presence that witnessed your childhood is the same one watching now. It has never aged, never shifted, never moved. That is eternity, not endless time, but absence of time, pure presence, the unchanging witness beneath all change. It is here now, in this very breath, in this flicker of awareness as you hear these words. And every regret, every hope, every voice inside your head, all of it has only ever distracted you from this, the nameless I behind the noise.